led efforts in West. Okay, we're recording. The wetland restoration with the tools that they have been using, community engagements, and emphasizing on the importance of indigenous knowledge in shaping wetland practices. So it's basically a very short one, and we'll keep it simple. It's been titled The Guardians of the Reef, Knowledge in Wetland, the case study of the Great Sea Reef. So the Great Sea Reef Seascape is, we'll be presenting it from a youth perspective, showcasing how youth-led efforts in wetland restoration has been a key factor that has really moved the work along the wetlands that we have here along the Great Sea Reef Seascape in Fiji. Very briefly, the Golingoli Dokuvata is part of the Great Sea Reef, which is a program that is run by the WWF Pacific office that spans across 4 provinces and is one of the key reef systems in Fiji, and not only in Fiji, but the Southern Hemisphere, as it is the largest continuous running barrier reef in the Southern Hemisphere and is been researched to contain some of the most resilient coral reefs. Resilient in the sense, if anything were to, God forbid, happen to other reef systems in part of Fiji or anywhere in the Pacific, these corals have been proven and have been researched to be of resilience in the sense they can rehabilitate other reef systems. So introducing the Golingoli Dokuvata. Golingoli Dokuvata is part of the reef system, of the Great Sea Reef system that has been designated as the Ramsar site. It is located in the north of Honolulu in Fiji, and the Great Sea Reef spans over 260 kilometers in length, and a portion of that 260 kilometers entails the Golingoli Dokuvata. The Golingoli Dokuvata is one of the richest area of the Great Sea Reef and is associated with lagoons, reef patches, and intertidal flats with mangrove ecosystem, and is one of the most biodiverse reef systems in the world, with in-housing over to 4,000 people across 4 districts, collectively sharing the same fishing ground. So Golingoli Dokuvata translates directly to a shared, how fishing ground in Fiji are commonly shared. This portion of the reef system is commonly shared amongst the 4 districts, which in-house about 4,000 people. And it has about 134,900 hectares of marine areas with 18 MPAs with marine protected areas, 4 mangrove reserves, and 5 turtle nesting sites. That gets to show that the diversity of this wetland or the Ramsar site, Tingolingoli Dokuvata, it is one of the richest areas of the Great Sea Reef, and it is said to be one key distinguish that keeps Fiji spotted out. This reef system, specifically Tingolingoli Dokuvata, that has in-house some of the most resilient reef systems. So the Fiji rectified the Convention on Wetlands, or Ramsar, in 2006. Following this, in order for the sites to be designated, it must be endorsed by government with active involvement and consent from both the local traditional owners. The traditional custodians must give approval, upon which the site must then be a formal support sort of documentation from the indigenous customary landowners, and this letter was finally endorsed and approved by government in 2018 to have the Great Sea Reef as one of the Ramsar sites in Fiji. So in order for a site to be designated, it must meet the criteria of what we call the Ramsar site criteria. And the Ngolingoli Dakovata meets all 9 criteria, which this highlights the ecological, the cultural, and biodiversity values. So the site must meet at least one of the 9 Ramsar criteria to be considered or to be enlisted as a Ramsar site. So this supports all valuables on endangered species being representative of rare or unique ecosystems, supporting significant biodiversity, following other critical ecological functioning as breeding fishing grounds or habitats as rehabilitations for our fishing sector, and with a thorough comprehensive management and monitoring potential. So there should be at least a capacity for conservation, monitoring, and the sustainable use of these resources with a greater push or with a major lead of community-led initiative, youth involvement, and a clear stamina of what the structure of this um, wetland would bring about. So in this case, it's the Great Sea Reef, the network of 18 MPAs, the 14 mangrove reserves, and the community stewardship program that we have gave it approval by the Fijian government in 2018 to designate it as a Ramsar site. Following this, how do we bring about the youth component in the work we do? So this is following in last year. In June 2024, the Mother Water Youth Network, a provincial youth network, one of the provincial uh, along the Great Sea Reef, directly linked with the Ngolingoli Dakovata, we were able to provide support and mobilizing the provincial youth network in partnership with the provincial council and the Ministry of Youth to firstly engage youth to lead action to safeguard biodiversity, climate action, and ecosystem restoration, youth leadership, and engagement in intergenerational dialogue, where we got together youths of the province. It was noticed that a year or 8 year gap had been in place where the youth group was not inactive. We were able to revitalize this youth group and have our volunteer program that we have within the Pacific office, the WWF Pacific Volunteer Program, the youth that we have in our program to go and encourage the provincial youth, to encourage the youths of the province to take ownership of their resources and the great resource that they have with them, and that is the reef system. So in Mother Water, we were able to partner with the ministry, with the local youth collaborative partnerships with other youths network in the province. We were able to allow them to be very inclusive and get them in the decision making of their provincial level, at the provincial level, where we feel having them seated in these provincial committees, a youth representative in the provincial meetings would give them a hands-on action on what the conversation along the Great Sea Reef is all about and the work that is included in it. So as part of the program, we had introduced a community-based mangrove ecological restoration toolkit, a toolkit where our youths in the province were able to get a practical guide on to use it along the Great Sea Reef to engage communities in restoring mangrove ecosystems, whereby the youths were taking the lead in the implementation and components of the management plan. They have existing management plans in the mangrove sector, in the fishery sector, whereby youths had a major component of the work, whereby they were taking the lead in the implementation and the monitoring of these programs, the different management plans. We were also able to combine the scientific and traditional knowledge. this gave us a good indication of what resiliency means, basically, whereby scientific methods such as species mapping, water salinity monitoring, drone surveillance were integrated with existing traditional ecological knowledge to support and enhance the existing community practices. This was also brought about with youth-led monitoring and digital storytelling, where youths from the locals um, story took onto Facebook, other social media platforms of the stories that they got from the ground at first point interaction, and it was raw that it was coming directly from the youth to storytell and document the restoration progress that they were doing. They were able to pin out if there were illegal actions happening in the place, whereby there were deforestation. With the help of this the digital world we live in, they were able to bring it forth onto the internet and have start stirring conversation among policymakers on what exactly is happening on the ground and what are they doing about it. It also brought about an inclusive and adaptive restoration. So the approach allowed us to empower villages, empower the youth and the women specifically to lead site-specific restoration and activities, more so to ensure that the process is culturally grounded, scientifically informed, and social inclusion. Um, with the approach we took, we ensured that the proper respect were given back to the communities. They were to take the lead. We supported in the complementing the existing work that they were already doing with the restoration work, with the restoration work in the mangrove restoration, that is the replanting of the certain sites that has been degraded, or sustainably conserving and sustainably using the mangrove resources that they had with them. So I guess that brings me to the end of my presentation and just giving an overview of what youth leadership is very vital, whereby having set up that the youth network in that specific province in along the Great Sea Reef, we were able to enable the youths to come out of their shells and learn from the WWF Youth Network program on what are some keys, the challenges that they face together, and how they could move forward with the work that they're doing to a long-term sustainability of their wetlands, their mangrove patches, their sea reef, the Great Sea Reef that runs with them, the Ngolingoli sites that they have as a Ramsar site. It also allowed us to share the knowledge holders, innovators, and bring about future leaders that are very grounded. They have their active involvement in their communities and a very meaningful inclusion process in wetlands and climate and nature as a whole, sort of a more holistic approach that was brought about with engaging our provisional youth. Um, yeah, that briefly is the presentation that I have for you all. I hope it was insightful and you learned a few or have a key takeaways to take with you from our Great Sea Reef program, the Ngolingoli Dakovata Ramsar site. Vinaka, thanks.
Thank you, Ulay, for this wonderful presentation. And here, it's really impressive to learn a little bit more about this Ramsar site. And it seems it's really impressive since you said all the 9 criteria for Ramsar site are fulfilled by this ecosystem. And it also was really impressive how you showcased how youth is engaged in this efforts to restore and conserve this unique ecosystem. So thank you for this presentation, and let me quickly look at the in the chat if there are questions, and there's one question from Ariana Magini, I think. Can you please elaborate on the role of the Fiji government played in the youth engagement for this project? That's a great question, Ariana. I was asking about, I wanted to ask basically the same. So how is the cooperation with local to national governments, and how does local authorities or national authorities support the youth engagement in this Ramsar site and your work?
Governments are a key stakeholders and are very vital with the work that we do in order to progress forth into this into these communities. There is a government channel, a protocol that has been in place whereby we engage the provisional officers. These provisional officers are government-led bodies. With the support that they request, then we step in. It was upon the request from these government entities that we were able to step in to conduct the scientific research, to ground-based with the resources that we have, we were able to ground truth the scientific data that backed it up as why we need to have this as a Ramsar site. And also with our youth partnership that we developed, it was a connection forged by the Ministry of Youth. And we were able to come in, intercept through with the needs that was expressed by the Ministry of Youth, which is the ministry that is responsible for all the youth-led initiatives at present.
Wow. I think that's maybe also a good story to share with other governments, that you have like a ministry for youth, and that you're really closely engaged with the authorities, and you have the mandate. I think it's not everywhere the case. So thank you for sharing and being a role model on this. But also, please enter some more questions if you have questions. But in the meantime, maybe I have another questions for you, Ulay. So the question would be, what would you wish? What kind of support would be more better by the government? What is lacking? Where are the lacking piece and bits, and where do you need more support, either from the government or other
This is
organizations?
a recorded meeting, right?
Yeah.
Just saying, with government being a key stakeholders and having this, they chair the steering committee on Ramsar sites. In order for any work to further progress or any work to be further happening along these Ramsar sites, the government sort of the funding opportunity that they need to tap into, they need to reassure them a sort of a guarantee for them what we are bringing in is something that will complement or support the work that we do. And most of the time, the projects that we run are on a short-term basis. Um, they would be expecting us more sort of expecting us to provide a longer durability of the projects that we run with them, and it's upon funding basis, and we've always relied on our funding stability, and that is something we still face an issue of securing enough funds to complement the works that our youth are taking on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So having more sustainability with regards to funding, to also that the government showcase that they're really interested to make
Yeah.
change on a long-term run. I think that's also an issue. A lot of partners, also from the Living Lakes Network, are facing that only 1 or 2 years funding is not really sustainable for an approach for wetland management, which is a task for more than a decade. I mean, we are currently in the decade of wetland restoration, you're in wetland restoration, ecosystem restoration. So yeah, that would be great. So if there are no further questions, I would like to thank you again for this wonderful presentation. And if the audience has another question to Ulay, please either direct contact him, or also the chat is still open. So also if you have the idea of a question after 5 minutes, Ulay will stay with us, and then we maybe also can get back to these questions at the end of the webinar. So thank you, Ulay, for this moment, and I would like to continue with our next presentation. So I'm happy to invite Ivana Vasic to the board or to the webinar. She's our next speaker from Serbia, and she brings over 16 years of experience in forest and wetland conservation. Ivana is a forest engineer and currently leads the nature conservation sector at her organization, a state forestry company that also manages several protected areas. She has been involved in numerous EU-funded projects, including IPA, CBC, and LIFE projects and other donor initiatives, focusing on wetland restoration along the Danube and Sava rivers. Her work supports the preservation of key ecological processes in some of Serbia's most important nature reserves. And Ivana will present inspiring examples of wetland restoration along the Danube River, and I'm really happy to welcome her today. And also, as we did with Ulay, we would like to start with a Menti question, so get to introduce the presentation, but also the topic. So Alexandra, could you please share the Menti again? And Ivana, maybe you also could elaborate why you choose these Menti questions, and why you are interested to hear from the audience, for example, on the statement about the Danube River. So thank you and welcome, Ivana.
Thank you, Johannes. Hello to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all participants. Yes, I will try to bring our experience from the Danube River, which is considered as one of the most important in the Europe, and I would really like to maybe have the impression of the participants. Are they familiar maybe with this river and its importance to the Europe in general? So my presentation actually would be concerned on the protected area and the wetlands, which are actually part of the Danube River, but also of one tributary river of the Sava River. So I will give the numerous examples from our working experience, the projects that we lead to the audience. Yes, we can maybe wait for a few more seconds for getting the impression on the Danube River, and maybe this is the chance that all of you who are attending the webinar, just to also, these are the actual statements which are relevant for the Danube, so there is no wrong answer to this question. I don't know if Alexandra would give me the second also the question. I put two of them. Yes, I would like also to learn from you what are the global, your regional donators, source of financing for the activities that you do in your wetlands. So you are free to write the answer. Also, there is no wrong answer. This will serve for me just to know who is willing to finance, to learn who is already defining some projects in your wetlands area or in the wetlands in your countries. So yes, you are free to type the answer. And I will also use this as maybe possible cooperation aspects, so that I will also state this in my presentation. I'm coming from the forestry company, who is the manager also of some wetlands, of some protected areas. So this will give me the insight of the possibility for additional financing aspects for the active, let's say, management of the wetlands. And yes, that would be some major benefit, at least from my personal context. I think that you can do your answers also in the meantime, and I will kindly ask Alexandra just to stop sharing. I will start my presentation. Just a second. I'll only need the feedback. Is it a full screen that everybody is seeing?
Yeah, currently we see the PowerPoint and now we see the full screen. So
okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I will try to tackle off all the keywords from the title of the today webinar, despite the fact that I am not so young, but I still have the same enthusiasm and the willingness to work in the field of nature conservation and wetland restoration, almost like even more than 20 years ago when I started to work in this field. So it would be an honor for me just to present you the context of the technology, of the youths, of the traditional knowledge, and the community engagement in the wetland management. I think that you already heard from Johannes who I am, what I am doing. Just briefly note, so I'm coming from the forestry company, state forestry company, which managed the state forests in the Vojvodina province in Serbia. And yes, I'm almost 20 years working in the field of nature conservation. For the last 16 years, I have spent in Vojvodinašume. Yes, we already get the Mentimeter questions, and just few more words about our company. We are the company that manages more than 130,000 hectares of forest and forest lands, and major part of this area is actually under some degree of protection, which means that is covered by the protected area. And for us, this is quite important and big challenge in the management of the forests, but also trying to harmonize all different interests that has or can occur in the management of our area. We are dealing with the nature conservation, with the protection of the core values, with the sustainable resource use, with the ecotourism and education, but also with the stakeholder cooperation in our daily work. Our protected area, the title or the logos of them are presented here. I will not go into the details. I just want to give the information that some of our protected area, like Deliblatska Peščara, this logo in the middle is actually the hotspot of the biodiversity also in the Europe. Also other protected area are actually also important on the national level. Four of them are also the Ramsar site. Some of them are well designated during the 1970s. All of them are equally important for the plants, also for the birds. Three of them are important in the context of the Danube River, of the ICPDR, and we have one protected area which is part of the, is actually the Biosphere Reserve and the part of the big 5-country Biosphere Reserve, Mura-Drava-Danube, at the moment one of the largest in the world. My focus would be just to give you the example of what we do and how we integrate all these segments of today's webinar in our management of protected areas, and I will give you a few examples from Gornje Podunavlje, which is the protected area which is on the border with Croatia and Hungary. And to state that for us, the cooperation among the different institutions is one of the priority. So we started actively to work on the restoration of wetlands some almost 20 years ago in some protected area already in 1990s, but concerning this protected area, we started in 2008, cooperation with the WWF office in Serbia at that time, also in cooperation with the private sector, in this case with the Coca-Cola company, and also cooperation with the state institutions like the government, provincial government, and the Institute for Nature Conservation as a professional organization that support us. The focus was the revitalization of different ponds, different wetlands in the area of Gornje Podunavlje, and this activity also continued in the next period, since that we also wanted to try different methods of revitalization, not only using the, let's say, the gray phase in the revitalization, meaning the using the mechanization in the revitalization of the wetlands, but we also at that time tried to implement some of the nature-based solution in the context of the revitalization. So these pictures would illustrate that we tried to uproot the bushes of the invasive species in the several ponds and bringing this biomass out of these small wetlands or out of the protected area. Still, also this was the case combining of the public and the private, let's say, partnership or cooperation on this type of the project. Also, the same case continued until some 10 years ago. We had several known locations when we worked with Coca-Cola in Gornje Podunavlje. Along with these habitat restoration activities, we also put the focus on the species, not only on the habitats, but also on the species. Vojvodina province in general is known as a agricultural land. Unfortunately, we still have the agricultural practices of the using of the pesticides in the agricultural land, which caused also the dying or caused the death of some bird species. And because of this, we initiated in the construction of two feeding place for the birds of prey in our protected area, which means that during the year we bring the food for the birds on these places, and mainly those are actually the feeding place for mainly the white-tailed eagle, which has the biggest population in the area of Gornje Podunavlje, and it is one of the biggest population in Serbia in general. This is also the project that we implement with the different organizations, in this case also with the Euronatur and also with the support of the governmental organization. We are not rely only on the international funds, but we also try to use the national funds, which is unfortunately not so high and very limited, but to use it also for certain activities in our areas. And this is one of example when we use the national subsidies for the revitalization of one of the ponds in this protected area. To come to the present days, now we as a company, after the 15 years of delivering of different projects, come to have the quite big projects, the projects that are financed by the EU. I will present two of them at the moment which are running. One is the project which are related to the wild islands on the Danube River. So within the partnership of the Danube Parks, we all have one common project which includes 9 countries, 16 partners, and all of them are dealing on the revitalization of the islands on the Danube River. In our case, we are trying to create 2 islands on the Danube, which we would have non-intervention after the project. And actually, this is very important in context of the Ramsar, since that the Ramsar actually supported the regional Ramsar initiative for the wild islands. And for us as a company is also important that actually we are in this partnership, we are the only forest company that have the active role in the terms of the revitalization of the islands, which is not so actually common for maybe some other forestry company, at least in the region. The second project that we have is also the LIFE project finance from the EU. That's the project that focuses on the preservation of the alluvial forest, despite the fact that the topic is the wetlands. But for us also, Gornje Podunavlje is the combination, not only the wetlands area, but also the alluvial forests. And we have the project with the also large partnership from 5 countries, I think 14 partners, and the lead partner is WWF from Austria. We are also dealing on the improving the hydrology of our protected area. We are trying to bring water back in the area after the construction of the dike in the 1960s. Actually, major part of our protected area have been cut from the direct floods from the Danube. And with this project, we are trying to at least provide and bring water in the period when it's possible. Not to going into the details, for us, this is very important also from the aspects, not only from the wetlands, but also from the forestry. We also have the experience of the dying of the forests, oak forests in this region, and this would significantly help also maintaining and improving the forest's health. Coming to some very small projects, we are dealing with projects which are financed from the other donator, not the European Union. So we have the experience that we have one international donor who wants to be anonymous, financing the conservation of the Triturus dobrocygus, that's the great crested newt, in our 2 protected areas. And with a small budget, we managed to revitalize 2 ponds, not 2, but 3 ponds, also to make the monitoring of the ponds and to make the eDNA of this water in this pond, so just that we can see what amphibians and other organisms lives in this area. Actually, this species is not so present in our protected area, so we have the wish that in the next this spring period at least find this species in one of the ponds. Coming for some protected area which has the complicated name, I will just bring also the experience that we started working almost 20 years ago with the removing of the illegal objects and with the cleaning of the wetlands. And after that, we starting real revitalization activities in terms of the removing of the sediments. The Danube is the river which brings a lot of sediments in our wetlands, so which needs also our active approach in terms of the management. Otherwise, this actually would lose the characteristic of the wetlands. And this is the example of one protected area from the Sava River, Obetska Bara. It's interesting that this protected area is actually first designation of this protected area comes only 2 years after the Yellowstone. So let's say that we are proud that we can say that we have one of the oldest protected areas in the world. And this is protected area where we work very actively for the last 20 years. And this is the area also where we have the experience with the non-government organization, the NGO sector, which brings the young people, the volunteers who works every year in our protected area. And thanks to the hands of these young people, of these volunteers, for the last almost 20 years, we managed to revitalize 300 hectares of the wetlands. This was, let's say, one unique project which has the continuity from the 1997. Even the activity on the revitalization in this area started some 5 years before. But this is also not the, in previous examples, I give the example of the private public partnership. This would be civil public partnership. So for us, this is very important. And still we have the very efficient communication, the cooperation with the young researchers of Serbia, who is the non-government organization that initiated this camp, which is entitled as a return of the ibis. In this protected area on Obetska Bara, we created for the last years 5 hectares of new water bodies. We construction some water ponds and the birds islands in the area. We managed to increase the number of the birds in the area. Actually, for instance, for the heron and the cormorant, we increased the colony from 100 pairs to more than 1,000 pairs at the moment. And with our activities that actually has been implemented intensively from the last 10 years, we managed to bring some birds that has been disappeared from this area. So in these aspects of the active management in the wetlands conservation is very important, since that our experience is that you will have positive effects very, very soon. So we bring 2 bird species for the very shortly period in our area. Also one note that we try also to involve the local community in the area, and since 2015 we started the intensively include the local farmers and the cattle grazing in our area. This was a very tough process and very demanding process. It's very also demanding in the nowadays, because of the number of the farmers are decreasing. There is no interest for the cattle grazing, but we still provide some benefits for these locals in terms that we are giving our area for free of charge. We are trying to provide them the electric fence, to provide them the food for the animals in the period when there is no so much for the food in the area. Similar projects we have nowadays with the UNDP. We purchased the 19 animals of the buffalo, and actually this species existed in the area of Obetska Bara a long time ago, and we managed to, with the project that is financed by the UNDP and the Sweden embassy also and the Switzerland embassy also to introduce this animal species in the area. And we think we already have quite big results, despite the fact that we bring this animal in our protected area in November last year. And we also have the latest project when we have signed the contract some 10 days ago, that we also want to do some restoration activities in the Danube and the Sava River. In a free protected area, we will apply some nature-based solution in all of these protected area, like the floating islands, like the willow sticker structures. We will use some predictions model to see if our activities has the impact, positive or negative. And we also will do the monitoring and try to educate also local people on the importance of the restoration activities in the wetlands. After the years, we learned that before we want to start your activities, we need to check our ideas with the nature conservation sector, in some cases also with the water management sector, that restoration activities are very costly, and whenever you prepare the project proposal, it's likely that you will miss some costs. So you need to have an alternative in the implementation, and also the obtaining the permits or some consents from the different organization institution also influence on the project timeline and the influence on the project implementation. We are very depending on the water level. So Danube and the Sava River are actually the rivers that could have quite high and the big waters. Additional aspects, if we want to have the new projects, we need to be prepared to have the technical documentation, or at least to have the to develop the idea together with some other institution or the sectors. Yes, we also had some issues or the challenges. We are the state-owned company, the public company, and this public usually or can create some problems in the operation. After the years, we've been recognized as how to say, pretty girl who can attract many young boys. I don't know how to translate it in English, but yes, we are a good opportunity, and we are the partner who many of the partnership wants to include us. And now we are facing the moment that we are lacking the capacity. We cannot reply to all requirements that we have, and if you have a lot of projects that we have, then you also have this cumulative amount for the self-financing that can be also the challenge. In terms some technical aspects, yes, we need support at least for these administrative segments of the project implementation, for the reporting tenders. Mainly we are doing with the EU tenders. So this is also a quite important aspects for us. And I know it's not popular, but we do not like the projects, despite the fact that we are a public company, but we are self-earning company. So we are market oriented, but we actually do not like the projects where there is no pre-financing, and some negative experience actually influence on our attitudes for this. This is from my side. I am willing to answer to all of your questions. You can contact me on the email that I provided. I hope at least I bring some interesting projects idea to you, and more or less this is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana, for this wonderful presentation. And wow, it's really amazing how many different projects and opportunities and innovations you have around the Danube River and within Serbia. So congratulations to manage all the different projects as a company, and also thank you for sharing this much knowledge over almost 20 years of experience in restoration, wetland restoration, but also forest restoration. So please, if you have questions to Ivana, please send them in the chat. I'm checking the chat. So currently I'm not seeing any question just regarding Ivana's presentation, but maybe Ivana, I have a question for you, and maybe you could, firstly, you could stop sharing your screen so that we can see you again in full modus here. So it's better to talk to your face than to a presentation. So yeah, maybe as we heard from Ulay before, that as a youth envoy and advocate for youth, what is your experiences with working with the youth? Are you collaborating with, for example, with universities, with schools, and do you engage with the youth in Serbia to also maybe build the capacities for the future wetland managers and forest managers? So maybe you can share some knowledge on that.
Yes, as I already said, we have one NGO, which name is the Youth Researchers of Serbia. So that's actually, this is the NGO which brings the young people every year to the volunteer camps. We also have another NGO in another protected areas which bring us also the volunteers working on the active measures of protection, on the restoration activities. And actually in our work, we are not only having the youth from Serbia or the young people from Serbia, from the local, but we also have the youth from the different countries from the world. So we are hosted these voluntary camps for the long time. In terms of our capacities, unfortunately, we are not so young company. So in terms of the staff, I am one of the youngest. So our average age is 58. So actually, we also as a company needs to bring the youth on the stage. And I wanted also, I was very surprised when Ulia said that they have the support from the government. Unfortunately, I would not say that we don't have the support from the government in terms of the youth, but they support the youth, but they don't see the nature conservation in the context of the youth. And this is one of the challenges that we need to tackle in some future period. So this is the issue, that there is youth in the social aspects, but lately they are in the ecology aspect engaged, but there is no some systematic support from the state in this context.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. And so these volunteering programs, they are more on the short term than on the long term, I guess, or so people are coming for several months and supporting and then going, or is it like because Ulay also presented that they try to have this youth stewardship, or how is the approach in Serbia?
Yeah, that's the short-term programs, not the months, but the weeks. So we have two to 3 weeks period for the camps. Maybe we could do it more intensively and on the higher level, but we are lacking the infrastructure in terms of the accommodation. And so we are working in the area where we don't, as a manager, we don't have these, let's say, infrastructure or logistic part of these camps. So yes, we also like to work on the daily level. We also have the requests from the youth organization, from the faculties, also from the students to come for the one-day action, to do one day some activities in the nature.
Yeah, great. So thank you. And maybe there was one question in the chat, maybe you have an answer or not, because everybody is interested in how to get funding. So maybe you have an advice on the question, how do we get funding for wetlands? Because here in Madagascar, it's very difficult. Let me see who asked this question. It was, oh, sorry for the pronunciation, but I try, Onyaniria. And maybe you have an advice, or maybe you also partner across Serbia also with African partners to help them to receive funds and maybe also to have joint wetland programs.
Yeah, I cannot maybe give the full answer, but we started with the projects almost 20 years ago, and we started from some more let's say paper projects. The paper meaning that we participated in the projects which develop some documentation, strategies, and so on. And this learning for almost the 10 years bring us to the position that nowadays we can apply also for the bigger funds. Yes, we are luckily, actually, Serbia is not the part of the EU, but we can, let's say, bring some EU funds for the Serbia. And also if we can apply so for some EU funds, like the LIFE program, which is Serbia, it's not eligible, only in the terms if you are dealing with some important Natura 2000 species or the habitats. And what is very important that every donator or majority of donator asked the co-financing. In our context, we were lucky in terms that we, from the forestry activities, could take some profits and give to the nature conservation and to put it in the nature conservation activities and to finance also from our own sources the nature conservation activities. What is important when you once start in the project, my proposal is to be very active. As I said, now we are like a young girl who is very attractive to many boys. So this is when you are running, you will bring and enable and establish your capacities that you can deal with the different type of the projects, different value of the projects. And nowadays, yes, we have projects like for these Triturus species from 10,000 euros up to this project in for the improving the hydrology regime up to 2 million euros. So yes, the experience of the different, I don't have the recommendation from the colleague from the Madagascar, maybe some other colleagues from the audience could help, but I suppose that there are, and I'm sure there is also the donor from the private sector that you have to reach. We have the experience with 2 projects that we have one donor from Bulgaria and one donor from Great Britain who are interested to finance the activities in the wetlands restoration.
Thank you for this answer. And yeah, maybe all of us are currently asking ourselves how we can approach to other funding mechanisms, since the governments around the world seem to hesitate to provide more funding for nature and forest conservation, especially in Europe, but also when you look to America. And maybe the private sector is a good address to make a business case for them why to invest in the restoration projects. So
Definitely.
Thank you, Ivana, for your presentation and for the insights from Serbia. Looking at the time, I would like to go slowly to the next and final presentation of today. So thank you, Ivana, again. And if you would enter your email address in the chat, then if people are interested in your presentation or interested in learn more about the Serbia DUNAP approaches, then they can directly contact you. So let me introduce our last speaker, Esme Tanilu. She's from Samoa and works with Conservation International Samoa, focusing on protection and restoring vital wetland ecosystems such as mangroves and coral reefs. She engages directly with local communities to apply traditional ecological knowledge in building resilience and sustainability, particularly in coastal areas vulnerable to climate change. Her presentation will focus on how empowering communities through traditional knowledge contributes to long-term ecological and cultural resilience in Samoa's wetlands landscape. So I would like to welcome Esme today, and she will also start with a Mentimeter question. So maybe also, Esme, the question to you: why you are interested to ask these questions to the audience, and what is the background on these questions? So Esme, please, I'm currently not seeing you, but please come to the stage.
Thank you so much, Johannes, for the introduction. Well, as you can see on the Mentimeter, I have some questions. There is what first word coming to your mind when you hear traditional ecological knowledge? I just want to grab your understanding of what you know and what you understand of your perception about traditional ecological knowledge.
So maybe we give the audience a short second to think about what they think about, or what is the first impression they get when they think about traditional ecological knowledge. Yes. And I'm not sure, Alexandra, if you shared the link again. Yeah, you shared the link. So please maybe go back to the Menti, to the audience, and also show us that you're still there and that you're still listening to us and engaging in this webinar. So now
And another thing I want to ask, because I know we're from the Pacific Island, so I know it's a different context to other different part of the world when you think about traditional knowledge. Because for Samoa alone, we think of traditional knowledge like our own customs and belief, but some other Pacific Islands and other think about traditional knowledge as one of their indigenous knowledge. So it's really good that these are coming in. Yes, wisdom. I think wisdom is the word that came in mind for most of our participants.
yes, but I also see the indigenous knowledge and cultural
Yeah.
aspects, and also nature-based solutions.
Balancing,
Yeah.
cultural.
Yeah, great. So I think you also have a second question, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So my second question is mainly to do with targeting of youth, like how much our modern young people appreciate and understand our traditional ecological knowledge, so that we can get an understanding of how the knowledge is passed down from our youth. Because sometimes the knowledge from our ancestors just stay at our ancestors, but when it passed down, it started to lose out in the on the process. To an extent, not at all. Yeah, I was expecting not at all as well.
I personally would make my choice between not at all and no idea sometimes. So it's also impressive to see that there's also no vote for very much currently, right? So the conversation between generations maybe should be a focus as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think we have most of our responses from there.
Yeah, I think so too. So Alexandra will share your
Thank you
presentation.
everyone for participating on the Mentimeter.
Okay. Yeah, so we can see the presentation. So Esme, you can start.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Talafalava and good morning, good afternoon, and good night from our side as well. Before I started my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Esme Tanyelu, and I'm from Samoa. I work for Conservation International based here in Samoa. A bit of a background from myself. I used to work at the government Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, so I have a background, fisheries background for almost 8 years, and now working for Conservation International for 3 years now. So most of the work I've been involved in, it's mostly on coastal communities. So focusing on our topic today. It's about empowering our communities through traditional ecological knowledge and how it can be one of the approaches for our coastal resilience. Next slide, please, Alexandra. Thank you. As you can see on the map, that's the map of Samoa. We have 4 main islands. So the big island is Hawaii and the small island is Upolu. And then we have other smaller islands. So Upolu, it's where our most of our people populated. So Samoa is located in the South Pacific Ocean, which is halfway between Hawaii and New Zealand. Our total land area is about approximately 2,842 square kilometer. So we're also known as the smallest EEZ in Pacific Ocean, which is about 120,000 kilometers square, and which is more than 40 times its land area. So that is why we're also our coastal communities are very highly vulnerable to climate change impacts. So traditional ecological knowledge is very vital for our resource adaptation, given that we are very vulnerable. Why traditional ecological knowledge is vital? Because it's not just about knowledge from our past ancestors, it's just the foundation of our future. And it also enhances our community resilience. It also for our protection of our biodiversity and our local knowledge on our climate adaptation based on our cultural context, our local wisdom from our elderly, which also further the sustainability of our resources. Um, Next slide, please. Why wetlands is important in Samoa? As you can see, the wetlands provide us food control, our food, clean water, and also coastal protection. Apart from from um, from biodiversity importance, it is also important as our food security and our livelihoods, because most of our people depend on our coastal resources for their daily subsistence and our livelihoods. Samoa has over 14,000 acres of designated wetland ecosystems. So most of our key wetland ecosystems includes our Lake Lamto'o, our lakes, the Waipu Swamp, the Olepupue National Park, and our mangrove forest. Next slide, please. As you can see on the screen, there are 3 key Ramsar sites of Samoa. So one of those key Ramsar sites is the Lepupue National Park. And another one is the Waipu Swamp Conservation Area, and then our Lake Lamto'o National Park. Those Ramsar sites are under the mandate of our Ministry of Natural Resources and our Environment, and also some of the key partners that helps in terms of funding and financials includes SPREP, CI as well, and other NGOs and other local NGOs such as Samoa Conservation Society as well. So Lake Lamto'o is our national park, which is located in the central highlands of Upolu Island. This park, it encompasses 3 volcanic crater lakes and surrounding marshes. It covers an area of 470 hectares, and it designated as a Ramsar wetland of international importance. Our Lepupue National Park, it is situated on Upolu Island. This park spans about 5,019 hectares of land and includes diverse habitats such as montane forest, our lowland forest, and our coastal wetlands. It is designated as Ramsar sites in 2016 by Pupwe Conservation Area. This area contains the largest remaining swamp forest in Samoa, which covering 278.3 hectares. It is recognized for its ecological significance and biodiversity. Next slide, please. When it comes to traditional knowledge in actions, first of all is our village council enforcement and customary laws to protect our mangroves and fisheries. In terms of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, they have a community-based fisheries management approach, which is a bottom-up approach. This is where most of our traditional knowledge and customs comes in, and where all our cultural protocols, as we have to enter through certain process through villages, given, for example, that we are NGOs. So NGOs cannot step into a village or community without proper channels. For example, we have to approach Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and also the Ministry of Women's and Communities, as their mandate is dealing with our community as well. And also under the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Women, they also one of their mandate is our youth engagement and also the women's. In Samoa, we have chiefly Matai system, so it's mostly that most of the entry points there is the approval from our chief from each villages. Sacred natural sites are preserved as part of our cultural heritage, which is very important why we have to integrate traditional knowledge in all of our project sites. It's because most of our community, uh, they know more about their lands and they know about the story of their lands, so that we know that we're not overstepping on some of their culture and preserved heritage sites, and we ensure that those sacred and natural sites are stay within confidentiality for them. Example that they know about the fishing grounds, also sites as ecological importance for them, for like a species importance species for them. So those are the kind of sites and cultural heritage. Indigenous practices and guidance in terms of seasonal resource use and habitat protection. Under the community as well, most of the elderly, they already have traditional knowledge on seasonal, instead of depending of scientific knowledge, but they already have traditional knowledge that they can tell what time season of spawning season for groupers, spawning season for different types of marine resources, and also the times where flowers blooms, and then they said that it coincides with the spawning season for certain important species for the communities. Also, in terms of seasonal resource and use, they also have to merge in terms of merging the scientific research. It has to coincide if it prove knowledge that it is already integrated in the village bylaws, because under all those projects, they have to develop a management plan. Next slide, please. In terms of a community-led wetland project or initiatives, as you can see, most of we have a citizen science program where we had to involve our youth as well. So we have mangrove management program in different communities. So we also invite villages, communities, but also we have to invite some of interested youth from universities as an exposure for them while they are studying, so that they can have a better experience in the field, and also for them to look into a career. As some of the youth, they're not really they're not background in marine science or environment science. Some are they're computing. They have a computing background, and also lawyers. So we have to expose them into this different kind of environment, and that's how we can see how they can transitions in terms of their interests, and how when they get the feeling of field work. We also get to involve some of our old communities members, such as the elderly, so they can direct and guide us onto places and areas, not only for a good area for biodiversity, but also for the safety of the youth and also the team. We also did some on coral reef monitoring, integrating of traditional ecological knowledge with science, as we also need to train our local communities, as we we foresee this as one of the sustainable effort that after the government or the NGOs sorry, left the project. But we have to ensure that our youth and also our communities has the capacity to carry on their their monitoring, and also to take care of their own resources. We also do some of the knowledge exchange among villages, that we have to take some of the villages with who are interested on some of other villages project. For example, there's one of the villages. They are very successful in terms of giant clam nursery. It all started off with a marine reserve, and then they started out adding on projects such as nurturing clams, and then they start ecotourism, where the tourists came in, and they also pay some fees. So that's how we can take that village as a champion for other villages to take an example of what they can do with their marine resources and also their wetlands. Next slide, please. In terms of policy and TEK integration, so it is including adaptation and some of our conservation frameworks. Our community dialogue also fosters monitoring and ownership of their resources. Under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, they have a NPSSAP, which is the Samoan National Biodiversity and Action Plan. It also has one of the top priority is the integration of TK and the documentation for the preservation of this knowledge. We also have the Samoa Ocean Strategy 2020 to 2030. It also encourages the local government system to be involved and be part of the marine protection. We also have the environmental education and awareness program, which is fortunately that this week we're running one of our guardian sites. So our guardian sites, we have 5 different models. One of the models we run is the tree guardian, which includes the components on mangroves. So we have teaching young students of year 7 on the importance of how these ecosystems integrations, and also integrating the traditional voyaging by using our traditional voyaging boats as a floating classroom. We also have another module in corals, and also being a wise fisher as well. Next slide, please. We have also some challenges and opportunities. So one of the challenges is the knowledge erosion, as I mentioned before. It's how the knowledge is passed down. Sometimes when we talk to our old people, they just share them and pass down by word of mouth. Some of those knowledge are not well documented, and also even if we have to document it now, but we foresee there's a gap there that we don't know if we had to verify if the knowledge um, is it correct or no. Another one is the legal conflict. Another challenge is the environmental degradations or threats that we have foresee the climate impact on our small islands. Opportunities. One of the opportunities there is the strengthening of our local governance, that we have to strengthen them in terms of their participations and how this TEK is integrating into resource use and management. Another of the opportunities there is how we can encourage the youth participate to engage in all of our projects, and also ensure that our policy is aligned with other ministry and also other NGOs policies, so that we ensure it is well supported and coordinated. Next slide, please. I think I came to the end of my presentation. To conclude, TEK is also a good approach to empower communities to lead on coastal resilience efforts. We also are blending our tradition with science, which enhances our ecosystem management. And also in investing in TEK, it also fosters the sustainable and also culturally rooted adaptations. Next slide, please. I thank you. And if you have any other question.
Yeah, thank you, Esme, for this wonderful presentation and for the case from Samoa, how you link traditional knowledge and future and now present for wetland restoration. So it was really insightful. And if the audience have a question to you, I would ask them to enter it in the chat. So far, I haven't seen one. So, but I would also ask you the same question as the previous speakers. So how do you, what do you think about governments and what is the support you receive by governments and authorities? Is it like the way Fiji is receiving the support through a Ministry of Youth, or how is your experiences with working with the government and engaging the youth, but also the elder people in decision-making processes?
Thank you. That's a really good question. From our end, it's really different from from Fiji as well, because we are NGOs. So how we work is that we work with our key stakeholders and partners, and also the government. So our entry point, if we want to go in certain communities, we have to approach. For example, if we want to deal with mangrove, so mangrove is under the mandate of Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. So we have to approach them, and after we have discussed and consult with them, and then they gave us a go ahead, and then we have to go through the Ministry of Women's and Social Development. So the Women's and the Social Development, they deal mainly with our with our communities. So within the mandates of the Ministry of Women's, they also have the youth, the women's, and the men. So once they're given us the approve that we can go ahead with our project, And then we can work together with the Ministry of Environment to provide support and also to implement the project. So I think the only support that the government, they look into the NGO is in terms of the funding, because the funding and the budget for the government for other ad hoc activities or other planned activities are not enough for them to cater for the activities they want to implement at community levels. So they will use these opportunities to have more funding to scale some of their work to the communities.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
thank you also for this answer. I mean, we also see it at different levels as well, that there are different mandates from different ministries, and sometimes it's really hard to engage each ministry and make this collaboration work between them, right? So it's a challenge, I guess, for all of us. And
Yes.
maybe
Yeah. And
yeah, so
sorry, I think I just
yeah.
want to add on. And one reason why we have to work with these ministries is that we ensure that we're not adding on same activities, but that the ministry are also doing it, so that we have to align if the activities are aligned with their priority as well, so that we can get the support we need.
Yeah. I saw there's another question in the chat from Srada Roy about, can you share some instances of the coral reef monitoring integrated in the tech with science that you mentioned? Like, how is it done with the community together?
Okay, thank you. I just want to share one of our, for example, we have collaborated with SPREP and also the AIMS, the Australian Institute of Marine Science. So we have done, we use monitoring technology, like taking photos of coral reef, and then we have to train communities in those methods so that they can not only train in terms of a science, but they also have the knowledge of those spots or those fishing area that they say it's one of the best fishing grounds in terms of spawning season, which they want to protect. So, which is why we have to train them to monitor over time so that they can see a visual and a visual aspect of how that science relates to their knowledge of understanding. As some of them mentioned that there were a lot of fish or a lot of important like invertebrates there, but after taking photos from that area, we found out like there are hardly any fish seen or any. So those kind of a science that we have to take into consideration with them, to have to explain to them how that science can also contribute to their knowledge, their traditional knowledge as well.
Thank you. I hope this answers the question. And yeah, Strada already is thanking you very much for this example. Maybe a last question before we are closing the webinar. We learned also that there are like stewardship programs for the youth. And my question would be, is there like kind of a mentorship program which connects the elders with the youth? So that they really can exchange about the traditional knowledge and what should be, which knowledge should be maintained to use it for future wetland and mangroves protection and restoration.
Okay, thank you for the question. That's a really good question. For the time being, we're not into that stage as we are trying to how we can go about on. We have that knowledge exchange with our elderly. The only feedback we get from the elderly when we ask them how they passed it's just a word of mouth to their children, but not with the communities like most of the youth. So we are looking at how we can um, do that, and also to document some of those knowledge that we can share to most of the youth.
Oh yeah, that's good, because there was also another question. So I can imagine, as you said, it's from mouth to mouth, from generation to generation by talking about it. So there's maybe a challenge to preserve this knowledge by documenting it and having developing a knowledge management system that works, also that elderries are willing to share with. And yeah, so if people have innovations, I think Esme would be happy to have a further discussion on that as well. And also, I think it's a valuable resource how they do it in Samoa. And thank you again for presented this wonderful presentation. And also a special thank to you and also to Ulay, because as we all know, it's during the night at your place. So thank you for taking this efforts and making these wonderful presentations in the middle of the night. So we really appreciate that, but also thank you to Ivana for having this wonderful presentation from Serbia. At the end of this webinar, I also would like to thank again to our co-host Laura and also the other organization which were involved in co-hosting this webinar. So first of all, the Convention on Wetlands Youth Working Group, the Youth Engaged in Wetlands, and Wetlands International. And yeah, with this, I would like to thank to everyone who joined today in the webinar and give the short reminder that there will be one webinar on the 20th of June left. So please visit our website. And if you're interested to join in again, the topic of the coming webinar will be scaling up wetland restoration, transitioning from project to program. So please join in. And then I wish you all a good night, a good afternoon, and a good morning. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.